Story 1. It's not Pizza Hut. We put our local Pizza Hut out of business because of a wrong phone number. I'll tell you the result right away. We've permanently lost the ability to order from several local Pizza Hut restaurants. We once had a phone number that was very similar to Pizza Hut's. Their number was 555-455-5575, and ours was 555-455-5555. It's easy to confuse the two numbers for obvious reasons. This was before cell phones, and we even had to install caller ID because of the confusion. For years, Pizza Hut customers would call our house, about 50/50ths, sober or drunk, and order pizza. The problem is, people never listen when you say, "Sorry, wrong number." Drunk people would call back 4 or 5 times and then start yelling down the phone, "I know it's Pizza Hut," or "Give me the number, or I'll kick your ass." It became a regular thing, and even Pizza H knew about it and apologized when we called them, although they never gave us anything for free, despite the gigantic inconvenience of our phone ringing off the hook. And then the corporate office of Pizza Hut paid for advertising in newspapers, on billboards, in the phone book. And guess what? They screwed up and listed our number as one of their restaurants in our city. Why? Because apparently the numbers 1 and 7 are the same for them, and the number of calls just went through the roof. Instead of 3 to 5 calls a day, we started getting 100 to 200. At first we sent people to an answering machine. This is not Pizza H. Their number is 4,555,515. But it didn't help. People were leaving notes screaming, "I want fucking pizza. This is bullshit. I'm going to kill whoever doesn't pick up the phone." I can't count the number of times I've been told to go to hell just for trying to direct people to the right number. And for some reason, no one ever listened. When the whole advertising mess happened, my dad called the PCC and said, "Look, we don't want to change our number. If you guys could please change yours, or at least pay to change ours." It was like $10. "We're going to stop getting your fucking orders." The manager was cursing at my dad. He was on speakerphone, calling him all sorts of names, accusing him of ruining his reviews and taking customers away from his franchise. What a fucking circus. His business was losing like 10 grand because of some phone number. Why not just change it? I don't know. My dad looked at the phone, hung up and said, "Okay, you want it the hard way." Then my dad told me, a 17-year-old kid, and my sister to take every call. If the phone rang, we'd pick it up, take the order and say, "Okay, your pizza will be here in an hour and a half." When they called back, we'd say, "Sorry, the driver just left." And if they called a third time, we'd say, "Well, I can put you through to our manager, but if you keep complaining, he'll probably kick your ass." And we'd hand the phone over to my dad, who'd say, "Music, listen, you're not getting your pizza, and we're keeping the money, so deal with this shit," or something like that. 2 weeks passed, and my dad tried again to get that pizza guy to change our number at their expense. He didn't even bother to point out that they'd screwed up with their advertising because they didn't seem to even know it themselves. Again, the manager yelled at my dad, "I don't have the money to change my fucking phone." We even tried calling other Pesach restaurants to resolve the issue, and even the corporate office, but to no avail. Oh well, that means the game starts over. Why? For 2 reasons. First, my dad bought a phone with a call transfer button. Second, it was summer, and my sister and I loved to prank people. Honestly, not the best activity for teenagers on vacation. We took calls every day from morning until night, and our friends would come over, and they liked to join in. 2, we had a common plan. Every other call was for pizza delivery. On the other calls, we'd piss people off. yell at them and say, "Do you want to talk to the manager?" and just transfer the call to the pizza joint itself. Another 6 weeks of this fun, and the pizza joint closed. A few weeks before we closed, we got a call from their corporate office, basically threatening to shut us down. It sounded like they had no idea what was going on, because they accused us of stealing their calls. We called them and explained the situation. We even played recordings of our conversations with the manager about the issue they were ignoring. All they could say was, "You better stop. This is illegal," and they kept saying it over and over. We didn't stop, of course. They knew exactly what was going on and just didn't want to do anything because it was too hard to fix their mess. A few weeks after the manager lost his job, he called our house and tried to argue with my client. "You are a bad person because I lost money and got beat up a few times." It turns out we made some customers so angry that they actually came and attacked him and other employees. It still makes me laugh that a company can be so blind. Any person in this manager's place who has even a drop of common sense would have immediately changed their number. But alas, this was a corporation with money for lawsuits and a local manager with an inflated ego. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Accidentally passed a job interview. I accidentally passed a job interview just trying to fix my exercise machine and fired the employee for discrimination. Names have been changed out of respect for the business owner. I am already of age. Let's say I have grandchildren in high school, so I was especially careful to self-isolate during the pandemic. Unfortunately, this meant I was giving up my regular gym routine indefinitely. So I decided to splurge and buy a couple of machines for home use. I bought them from a local sporting goods store, which I chose in part because of their generous warranty and repair policy. But then one of the machines broke. I called the store, and suddenly it was much more difficult to get through to them than it had been when I bought it. They didn't commit to repairing it. Technicians were never on site, and customer service kept me on the line for an indefinite period of time, even though it was a small local store. In short, it was just awful. Finally, I decided to go there in person and figure it out. At the time, businesses in our state were just starting to reopen after the pandemic, so sporting goods stores weren't yet inundated with customers. So I was surprised to see about a dozen cars in the parking lot. They were mostly lifted pickup trucks and SUVs with skull and cartel stickers and the like. It made sense to me. These were the kind of customers who had been the first to rush into a sporting goods store after the nationwide lockdown. I didn't think much of it at the time. I had been on Zoom calls for work all morning, so I was dressed in business attire, dress pants, pearls, a turtleneck, the whole kit. I walked in and saw a line of big, beefy guys at the counter. They looked like they'd just gotten off work, too. I assumed they were waiting to be served, too. They were surprised to see me, but I assumed it was because most older people were staying home if they could. I waved politely and kept my distance. A few minutes later, I noticed the employees inviting these muscleheads by name into the back office to answer their questions. I assumed it was some kind of social distancing measure. So I walked up to the guy in the store uniform who was calling people by name and said, "Excuse me, do I need to get a ticket or make an appointment?" He looked surprised, too, but again I chalked it up to his age. He said, "Just a minute." I asked if I should start filling out some paperwork. Many of the guys were filling out things, and I figured it was a repair request or some other piece of information I'd need to provide to speed up the process. But he just insisted that I stand there and wait. Meanwhile, a more senior guy kept coming out every few minutes and calling people to come into his office with him. Then a junior employee pulled him aside and pointed at me. I waved. The older guy came over and said, "Hello, ma'am. Are you sure you've come to the right place?" I said, "Oh, sure, I've been planning on coming here all week," he said. "Great, then we can talk right now. Want to come into the office?" The jocks exchanged confused looks, but I figured it was because I'd cut in line. I figured they were prioritizing me since I was the most at risk. I said, "Oh, that's sweet of you, but most of these men were here before me. I can wait. Why don't you give me all the paperwork I need to fill out?" Bye. But he just shook his head. "Well, let's talk first before we fill anything out." And so we went. I sat down at a desk in the small office across from the two of them. All this fuss over an appointment for a repair seemed like a lot to me, but I thought, well, I guess this is our new normal. They looked at each other like they both didn't know what to say, and I thought, are these both their first days on the job? Let's just get this over with. Finally, the older one began cautiously. "Okay, you have a lot of experience servicing exercise equipment." I immediately decided that they were trying to shift the blame onto me in order to void the warranty or sell me something on top. So I answered sharply, but honestly, I exercise every day, longer than at least one of you has been alive. I can look at any model in your gym and tell you what it does, why it's there, what features are necessary, and what's just fluff designed to line your pockets. And I certainly know the difference between a machine that works and a machine that's broken. So I don't see what we're even talking about. Just tell me what information you need. I'll sign what I need, and let's get this done. The guy in charge folded his hands on the table and said, "Okay, look, I'm sure you have a lot of experience and you know your stuff. But okay, how old are you?" That there was no reason why he would need that information to send a repairman to my house. At that point, I was really in shock. Was he hitting on me, or was he implying that there was no point in fixing the machine because I was going to die soon anyway? What does that even have to do with it? You have no right to ask me that? The younger guy whispers, "Hey, yeah, I don't think you're legally allowed to ask that." And that's where it all starts to click for me. The senior guy, who couldn't be more than 30, raises his hand in a shut-up gesture at his coworker and continues. I still can't tell if he was trying to backtrack or double down on his arrogance. It's just that clients will find it much easier to trust someone who looks like them. So it's not so much the age thing as the fact that you're a woman. The younger guy gasps in anguished despair, "Bro, no," and abruptly switches to a businesslike tone. My coworker meant that we're targeting a specific demographic, and that's where his list of buzzwords ends. They realized the situation was getting out of hand, and I sat there silently, staring at them. And that's when I finally realized that I had gotten into a group of job seekers and that I was mistaken for one of them. I said, "You do realize that it is illegal to ask a candidate's age or discriminate based on gender." The senior man clearly thought he had everything under control and exclaimed, "It's not about us. Ma'am, we are concerned about your safety. You understand? We are not saying that you can't work here, that you are not capable. You just shouldn't. Like we're doing you a favor by not considering you. There's a lot of hard physical work here. It's not safe for older people. Your bone density drops as you age. Haven't you noticed? And you'd never be alone in the store with the other employees, being the only woman there. It would be really awkward. Well, for you, I mean, I wanted to make sure I had every right to take them on, since I was lucky enough to have a stable job. But a lot of people my age are struggling to make ends meet right now, and the thought of them having to deal with this kind of crap pisses me off. So I said, Well, thanks for your concern, but times are tough, and I'm qualified for this position, so I'd still like to fill out the application. The younger one looked like he wanted to give me the application just to get it over with. But the older one said firmly, for all the reasons I just listed. I don't think that's a good idea. I'd had enough. There was no way a snotty, sweaty baby to be a business owner. So I asked to speak to the owner. They said the owner was unavailable by phone. There was a stack of business cards on the table, and I picked up the one that said owner. It only had the main business number on it, but it also had an email address, so I said, well, I'll just text him. But now I need your full names. The younger one said his name was Ken Lopez. Okay. The older one said his name was Brian Smith. I nodded and said, hey, Brian, why does your shirt say Andy? I found his real card and took it for my record. I didn't want to give this guy an opportunity to hide behind phony excuses, so as I left, I finally summed it up with feeling, just so we understand each other correctly. You refuse to even let me fill out an application just because you're not considering me because of my age and gender. At first he tried to remain silent, but eventually he cracked under the pressure and muttered, you're a nerd. Listen, I am. It is what it is. And his dumb junior partner added, good luck with your job search, and tried to give me a coupon for wasting my time here. But I had no sympathy for him either, because at the very beginning, when I still thought I was standing in line for service, he didn't give me an application either. He just took one look at me and immediately called the boss to weed me out. So I left soon after and exchanged letters with the owner. I explained what had happened. Not only that their employees were using discriminatory practices pre-hiring, but also that I had come as a customer, and no one had even greeted me or asked how they could help. No one had even realized that I was a customer. I never received an application for employment, but that's okay. My current employer would hardly like to know that I was looking at other options. But I got a quick and hassle-free fix for my broken exercise machine and a direct number to contact in the future. Later, the owner called personally to apologize and said that the older one was fired and the younger one was punished. The most interesting thing is that the owner of the business turned out to be a woman. Well, write your opinion about this story in the comments. Do you think it is the HR rule to refuse a person simply because they think he is not right for you? It seems to me that she went too far, because really, if the guys do not want to see women at work, then that is their right. But on the other hand, I understand this woman's feelings, and yes, I would also be unpleasant to be in her place. Nevertheless, I believe that if a business does not want to hire a person, then that is their right, and they do not even need to explain anything. Story 3. An old woman takes revenge on a bore. A nice old woman took revenge on a woman who harassed me. This happened several years ago. I was the night shift charge nurse in the intensive care unit. I had just finished a 12-hour shift at the hospital that had been extended to 14 hours due to an emergency call. I was exhausted right before my shift and had to go back in 9 hours for a 4th shift. All I wanted to do was buy groceries for the slow cooker, so I would have something to eat by evening. I walked into a well-known big box store that sells food, clothes, electronics, you name it. I was wearing a bright blue uniform with a badge that said charge nurse in big letters, and I had forgotten to take off my stethoscope, so it was hanging around my neck. The employees at this store, well, they definitely don't look like that. As I was walking into the store, I saw an elderly couple trying to load a huge box into their SUV. And when I say elderly, I mean seriously old, 90 years old, rocky, shaking, barely able to stand. Patients that age usually have a medication list that is 3 pages long. The man's thighs certainly wouldn't have been able to support the weight of the box without breaking, and I'd had enough of that day's work. I quickly walked over to the woman and offered to help. She happily agreed, and I loaded their TV without much difficulty. It was bulky rather than heavy. We started talking, and she told me it was a gift for their son, and her husband didn't want to wait for help. I wondered why none of the other employees were helping them. And then it happened. I'll be Med. She's to spy TS. Hey. The older woman and I fell silent in surprise and looked in her direction. She was a lady in her 50s, wearing a cheap beige suit. She was standing about 5 yards away, her hand on her too wide hip. If you're done loading there, I need some help here. She pointed to her cart, where she had 2 boxes of bookshelves. I realized she thought I worked there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not work here. You're already holding me up. Just do it, and don't scratch my car. The older woman and I exchange a confused look, and I try to explain again. I'm not work here. Just do it. She steps away from her cart, grabs her bag and mutters, "Fucking idiots," digging through her bag for her keys. The cart starts to roll further, and one wheel comes off the curb. The weight of the cart tips over. Instinctively, I lunge forward to break the fall. No luck. TC turns to see that her chipboard bookshelves have scattered across the asphalt. The boxes have dents in the corners. One has ripped open, revealing parts and packaging. TC completely loses control and turns into a furious miger. What the fuck? You fucking idiot. Pick them up, damn it. I'm going to get you fired. You owe me new shelves, and I'm late. At that point, I completely burned out. Pick it up yourself. I don't work here. I was already turning to go into the store when I felt her grab my sleeve and try to yank me back. I abruptly pulled my hand away and turned to her face, already purple with anger. She opened her mouth to scream again, but I poked my finger in her face and said, "No, don't touch me. Shut the fuck up. I don't work here, and even if I did, I'd quit instead of helping you clean up your shit." Tia's froze in shock. Her mouth opened and closed. She mumbled, not believing that someone dared to raise their voice at her. And then the manager and an employee came out. Taz, seeing the manager, found her voice again. "Are you the manager? This man ruined my shelves and refuses to pay for them." I just froze in shock. Seriously, seeing that the guy in the bright blue uniform with the stethoscope and the big name tag, the head nurse, clearly doesn't work there. Instead of apologizing, she decides to double down on the madness and accuses me of breaking her product. Before I can justify myself, the older man I was helping with the TV intervenes and explains the situation to the manager. TC continued to complain, but the manager got the picture and apologized to me and the couple. I stood to the side, angry, watching the manager deal with TC and inspect the shelves. They were undamaged. He offered her 2 new boxes, but TC was already thoroughly dissatisfied with the situation. She refused. She was already late because of me. She just glared at me and said to the manager, "Just load them. I'm late enough because of this." The manager and the employee picked up the boxes and shoved them into the lady's car. I shook my head and was about to go into the store when the older woman I had helped earlier stopped me. "Woman, sir, thank you so much for helping me with the TV. I'm so sorry some people can be so rude." She extended her hand to shake mine. As she wrapped her frail hands around my palm, I felt something she pressed into my hand. "Woman, whisper. Don't look now. Wait until she leaves." I put the package in my pocket and the woman left. Slay got into the car and, without apologizing or thanking anyone, revved the engine and drove away. Finally, I went into the store for groceries and, putting my hand in my pocket, pulled out a plastic bag with a bunch of screws and fittings. I immediately realized that the nice old lady had taken advantage of the commotion and stolen a set of parts from the torn TS box. I couldn't believe it. A huge grin did not leave my face while I was shopping, and now I had a new petty revenge hero to emulate. Story 4. The Evil Lady Really Story 4. The evil lady wanted caramel apples. Wanted caramel apples. I stopped by the supermarket today during my lunch break at work. I was buying ingredients for cider. I found the only preservative-free apple juice they sold. I loaded a dozen 2L bottles into my cart and left them in their cardboard boxes. I needed to pick up a few more items to make it easier to transport, so I pushed the cart around the store. A woman noticed the juice boxes in my cart and asked where I found them. I had nothing better to do anyway, so I took her to the juice stand. She thanked me. Immediately, another woman came up to me and asked, "You used to have caramel apples, but I can't find them. Where are they?" I had no idea where they were and replied, "Sorry, I don't know. I don't work here." Her eyes narrowed, and she said, "What do you mean you don't work here? I just saw you help that woman. I was wearing a t-shirt and corduroys and didn't look like I was an employee at all." I knew no matter what I said, this was going to go badly, but I tried to be polite. "Excuse me, ma'am." She asked where I got the apple juice, so I showed her. "I don't actually work here." "What do you mean you don't work here?" "I don't work here. I'm a customer, just like you. Just tell me where the caramel apples are." This is getting weird. I honestly don't know where the caramel apples are. "I don't work here. Do you even know where anything is in this store?" "I know where the apple juice is." "Where are the caramel apples?" "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I honestly don't work here." "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means I don't work here. I don't know where the caramel apples are. I'm a customer." "Then why are you unloading the shelves?" She pointed to the carton of apple juice in the my cart. "I am a shopper. I am going to buy what is in my cart. Nobody needs that much juice. You work here. You need to tell me where the caramel apples are." By this point, everyone around us had stopped and stared at us. An employee of the store came up to us and said, "Caramel apples were a seasonal item, and I'm afraid they are out of stock." The woman looked angrily at the employee, then at me, and said, pointing at me, "Why didn't he tell me that? He doesn't work here." "Ma'am," the woman roared in frustration, shoved her cart into the canned goods display, knocking it over, and screamed, "What is wrong with all of you? I'm never coming back here again." She stormed out of the store in a rage. The employee gave me a look like, "What the hell just happened?" I gave her the same look and then went to the checkout. I loaded the juice into the trunk of my car and got behind the wheel. Before pulling out, I checked my mirrors and noticed the lady with the caramel apples sitting in the car to my left in the driver's seat, sobbing. I rolled down my window and waved to get her attention. She noticed me, waited about 15 seconds, then rolled down her window. "Are you okay, ma'am?" I asked. Through her tears, she said, "I promised to bring caramel apples to my grandson's party." I asked when the party was, and she said tonight. I told her I'd seen caramel apple kits at another store, and if she made them now, they'd be ready in time for the party. Her eyes lit up. She looked at me. "Thank you. You're welcome." And I went back to work. Well, those were the "I don't work here" stories. I hope you enjoyed them. If so, write which one you liked the most in the comments. And if you didn't like them, then just like and watch our previous videos. Also subscribe to our channel if for some reason you haven't done so yet. And good luck.